Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we have more episodes of Agatha All Along and The Penguin to discuss. We have another episode of each of those shows for our full spoiler segment. We also have our typical weekly On the Horizon segment where we talk about what's coming up in the next week. We also have some news stories and trailers to cover in On Beat, and we have an On Tap section where I'm going to be talking a little bit about The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. But let's get started with On the Horizon.
On the horizon.
As I mentioned, On the Horizon is where we talk about what's coming up in the next week or so. And we're going to start things off with Ranma 1/2, which is returning as a remade series on Saturday, October 5th on Netflix. We've talked about before how they're redoing some like classic shonen series. Like they did it with One Piece has one coming out, you know, and here we have Ranma 1/2 coming out. So us 90s anime kids are eating.
Oh, yes. It's a good year for 90s anime.
Yes, but that is coming on Saturday, October 5th to Netflix. The franchise, which is a kind of spoof of not so much superhero movies, but of like the process of making superhero movies from the writer of Veep, is coming to HBO and Max on Sunday, October 6th. Solar Opposites Halloween Special is coming on Monday, October 7th to Hulu. Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred is coming on Tuesday, October 8th to PC, PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. Silent Hill 2 Remake is coming on Tuesday, October 8th to PC and PS5. I haven't heard anything about that since like it was revealed. Is there just like negative hype for that game or something?
For the Silent Hill 2 remake?
Yeah. I haven't
no.
heard anybody talk about that game.
I think people are just waiting for impressions because, like, it's a remake of a very well-beloved game by a studio that hasn't necessarily made a major quality hit. I think it's just like people are waiting for impressions to see, like, there's some trepidation over, like, oh, is this just going to be like a bastardization of Silent Hill 2 or is this going to like live up to the name?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably it.
I was noticing a similar thing. I saw an ad on YouTube for Monster Hunter Wilds, and I was like, that game, I remember when it was announced, there was like a bunch of hype, and I haven't heard like anybody talking about it like since. And there have been like new reveals, new trailers, stuff, and just like nobody's talking about it. It's just kind of interesting.
Talk about it, yeah.
But yeah, so that's Silent Hill 2 remake coming on Tuesday, October 8th. Caddo Lake. This is a horror movie coming directly to HBO, or not HBO, to Max, the streaming service, on Thursday, October 10th. Citadel Diana. We've talked about the Citadel franchise.
Oh, yeah.
This is the Italian
Citadel.
one.
The Citadel. Oh, yes.
Yeah. This is the Italian one, is coming on Thursday, October 10th to Amazon Prime. Tomb Raider, The Legend of Lara Croft is coming on Thursday, October 10th to Netflix. Teacup, which is a horror series that I think we had it in our preliminary show notes, but we didn't cover it, I don't think.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we were discussing it last week off the podcast. Not on the podcast.
But that's coming on Thursday, October 10th to Peacock. It's a horror series. Disclaimer, which is a limited series from Alfonso Cuarón, that stars Cate Blanchett. A woman who finds out that there's a novel written about her that discloses a dark secret. So it's kind of like that episode of Black Mirror with a Netflix show about her own life or whatever, except like more serious.
Right, yeah.
But that's coming on Friday, October 11th to Apple TV+. Sweet Pea, this is the Ella Purnell series that I think we also talked about this last week where we were going to talk about it, but I don't think we ended up talking about it on the show.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's like she's like a serial killer or something. It's like a dark comedy about a female serial killer.
Yeah.
That's coming on Friday, October 11th to Stars. Metaphor ReFantasio is coming on Friday, October 11th to PC, PS4, PS5, and Xbox Series X. From the creators of Persona 5.
Yeah, this one has been getting a lot of hype.
Yeah, I remember seeing a bunch of articles coming out around the same time decrying why the game wasn't being hyped. And I'm like, well, the fact that like in one day, like 6 articles came out saying, why isn't this game getting hyped? Tells me that the game's getting hyped.
Yeah, I see people talking about it constantly, so it's kind of like, what? I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but that's coming on Friday, October 11th, again, from the creators of the Persona franchise.
Yes.
Terrifier 3 is coming to movie theaters on Friday, October 11th. This is from the Terrifier franchise, which I have never seen a single movie in.
Well, do you like clowns? Do you like extreme gore and violence?
I like extreme gore and violence, and I'm okay with clowns, I guess.
Yeah. Well, then this is the franchise for you.
Saturday Night, which is the dramatization of the first episode of Saturday Night Live and everything that went into it coming to air. That is coming to theaters on Friday, October 11th. So that is it for our On the Horizon segment. Lots of stuff coming up in the next week. So a few big things there. Metaphor ReFantasio is pretty notable to me. Ranma 1/2 is pretty notable to me. Anything that's really stands out for you?
Oh yeah, like Metaphor stands out to me. I'm interested in seeing what happens with Silent Hill 2. I mean, Saturday Night looks interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Tomb Raider's probably going to be good.
Tweepy looks like it could be really good.
Tweepy looks like
maybe
it could
not.
be fun. Yeah.
It looks like one of those where it's like you just don't know, but it's interesting. But yeah, definitely Metaphor for me. That's the big standout.
Yeah, same. I agree.
Now we're moving on to our On Beat segment. On Beat is where we talk about the week's news. And we're going to start off with a sad story. And that is that Chucky has been canceled after 3 seasons at Sci-Fi and USA.
That genuinely sucks. I think, but the writing was on the wall because season 3 ended earlier this year, like I believe this past spring.
Didn't it end with like a post-credit scene about like writing to get it renewed for another season or something?
Yes, there was a post-credit scene where Chucky was like telling people to write in or call into USA and Sci-Fi or to NBC Universal to get renewed for season 4. There was a post-credits about that. It didn't happen. Yeah, because like season ended without a renewal, which was the first time in the series that there wasn't a renewal before the season ended.
Yeah.
And so that was the first time. And then like the upfronts happened. There was no word. We went through the entire summer with no word on a new season. It was kind of like
looking pretty grim for a while.
Yeah. And they finally like dropped the hammer, I guess. And it sucks. Because it was like one of the best horror shows on TV. It is one of the most consistent. All 3 seasons are extremely entertaining. So yeah, it's a shame that they won't be able to continue on with the 4th season. Don Mancini has said that like he does plan on doing a new Chucky film. So he said on Twitter he'll be back. Mm-hmm. So this is the end of Chucky, but this is the end of the show.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are probably going to be mad about this, not just sad, but like angry. I think you have to kind of look at it as like, it's kind of a miracle that this show happened at all.
Oh, it's a total miracle. Yeah.
And it got 3 seasons. Yeah. You know,
it's the Hannibal situation.
Yeah.
Or like it's it's a miracle that show happened and that show got 3 seasons and a cancellation.
The most ever for a Brian Fuller show. So
yeah, the most ever for a Brian Fuller show. Also, it was NBC who bankrolled it. A lot of parallels, and Don Mancini and Brian Fuller are friends. Yeah. And Don Mancini did do some work on Hannibal as well.
That's the thing. Like, I know a lot of people get really angry, like particularly at like Netflix, for like they're like, "Oh, why would you cancel the show?" It's like, why do you think they canceled it? People weren't watching it,
right?
And it sucks. And it's like I know the feeling because I'm into high concept stuff, and high concept stuff doesn't tend to do well, and it gets canceled. And the same thing used to happen. People act like Netflix and like these new ones now are like the first ones to ever do that, but that's what like happened all the time on Fox.
Yeah,
like at least
Fox used to be famous famous for canceling shows.
Yeah. I mean, just constantly. Like, and the thing is, like, when you watch something on, say, Netflix or Sci-Fi that gets canceled, it's kind of like a miracle that it ever existed in the first place. And it gets like 3 seasons or something, 2 or 3 seasons, you know? Whereas like back in those days when we would have it on Fox when they were canceling stuff, you wouldn't even get a full season. Like they would plan for a full season and they would do like the first like 13 episodes. And then the way TV used to work is that it doesn't really work this way anymore. But a show would be typically about 22 episodes in a season. And it would get its initial 13 episode order. And then if it got renewed in the mid-season, that was called the back 9. And it was like the last 9 episodes of the season. The Fox shows that we talk about that were notoriously canceled all the time were canceled before the back 9. So they would have like a mid-season cliffhanger and then just never come back.
Yeah, and then just never come back. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But even those, even as infuriating as it was when those were canceled, those were examples of like, it's just amazing that it was made in the first place. Because just high concept genre shows just usually don't do that well. I mean, sometimes you catch lightning in a bottle, like something like Stranger Things, you know? But like usually not. Usually it is not the case.
So reading the article deadline, in Chucky's case, it wasn't so much a ratings issue. It was, these shows are expensive to produce and NBC Universal does not want to spend the money to produce these shows. I mean, the reason this was on both Sci-Fi and USA was because the idea for NBC was like both those networks would split the cost of the show. Mm-hmm. And the article framed it as like this was a change in part of a change in strategy for NBC to move away from expensive scripted more towards less expensive unscripted and like import programming.
So they've been doing that forever. Like every 5 years, Sci-Fi comes up with a new strategy to like do less like expensive scripted content. They focus more on reality TV. The reality TV all fails. Oh yeah. And then they try something again. And then like another couple years pass and they say, we should just do reality TV.
They point out like Sci-Fi's like upcoming slate of scripted shows are like outsourced from like Canada now.
Yeah, they're like shows that were already going to exist and they just licensed them.
Yeah.
You know, maybe helped fund the creation of them or something. But yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the last time that Sci-Fi did this, the last time that Sci-Fi had some really good genre shows was The Magicians and The Expanse. Those like that like double lineup of those two. That was like really good sci-fi shows or sci-fi and fantasy shows on the Sci-Fi Channel. And I remember when The Expanse got canceled and then The Magicians got canceled and The Expanse eventually got picked up by Amazon for like another season or two, but because Jeff Bezos is like a nerd for that series for some reason.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But I remember when all those ended, The Magicians and The Expanse ended and stuff, and that exact same line that you just said about like, you know, they're going to focus more on import shows and less expensive, like scripted shows and reality shows is what they're going to, it's like the exact same line. And then you go even further back to like when, you know, the last Stargate series was canceled, you know, same exact thing was said then too, you know? It just seems to be like we get like a few really good sci-fi shows on the Sci-Fi Channel and then they say, oh, we're not going to do this anymore. We're moving towards reality TV. Then that fails. And then like a few years later, we get another good show and then like that gets canceled and they go, oh yeah, we're going to do reality TV now. It's like we're ending Battlestar Galactica. Now we're going to do some reality TV. And then it's like, no, we're ending The Magicians. Now we're going to do reality TV. And now we're ending Chucky and we're going to do reality TV. Yeah. So what I'm saying is like, give it 5 years.
The big excuse now is because like streaming has changed the landscape, so like less people are watching cable television, so it's harder for it to be profitable.
And that is true.
Yeah.
Chucky is like the kind of show it's almost kind of weird. You see it and think like, oh, it's a sci-fi show. Like you'd think it would be more likely to be something that was on Netflix or like Max or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, they kind of messed up with Chucky because they very much positioned it as like, oh, this is a cable show for our cable networks. When they could put it on streaming. For the first 2 seasons, you know, like what they did was they aired it on USA and Sci-Fi and then they waited months after it aired to put it up on Peacock. Like
they did the
NBC
same
streaming
thing with
service.
like Reginald the Vampire, where like season 1 came out like maybe a month before on streaming, like a month before season 2 like started airing. Like they waited all that time, you know? It's just it's kind of ridiculous. They do that shit like all the time, like, you know, like cable channels. They're trying to like hold on to that prestige of like owning their own show instead of just realizing the landscape has changed and like embracing that. I mean, NBC Universal owns all those channels. It owns USA, owns Sci-Fi. It owns all of them, as well as NBC. They have a streaming service. That streaming service is not doing too well. You know, it just seems obvious. If they were day and date putting up episodes of Chucky, I mean, they divided Chucky amongst USA and Sci-Fi to try to get more returns by airing on 2 networks at the same time. Why didn't they just also do that with the streaming? But I don't know.
Who knows? Yeah. But yeah, it's a shame, but I mean,
it's a shame, but it's a miracle you got anything at all, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Next, we have 2 stories about DC Studios projects. So first up, DC Studios is going to be making a Bane and Deathstroke team-up movie. It's going to be written by Matthew Orton, who is right now doing Captain America Brave New World. There's no director or cast announced yet.
Nope. That's interesting. I have no clue. Like, it's kind of a weird team-up.
And you said, when you told me about this, you said this is going to be in the DCU?
Don't believe I said that. I said, I think so. I don't know. I don't really know. I just read like the article.
There's not a lot of details. I don't even know if they mentioned
clarified. Yeah.
The next movie we're going to talk about, same thing. Like, I haven't seen anything that clarifies whether or not this is canon to the DCU or not.
Yeah. Which is the Dynamic Duos, which is CGI animated. There's going to be all kinds of
quasi-CGI, yeah.
Well, it's going to be CGI, practical, stop motion. It's going to have puppets.
It's going to have some live action elements, apparently.
It's interesting. It's about 2 Robins, Dick Grayson and Jason Todd.
Mm-hmm. Jason Todd's from the Death in the Family series, right?
Yes, yeah. Jason Todd is the second Robin. Dick Grayson is the first Robin. Mm-hmm. So it's interesting they're going with that. Like,
there've been 4?
Yeah, there was Dick Grayson, Jason Todd,
there's
Tim Drake.
Tim Drake, and then it's Batman's son.
Yep, Tim Drake, Damian Wayne. There was another one, Stephanie.
And they already said, right, that they said that Damian Wayne is going to be in the new Batman one in the DCU, right?
That's going to be the Brave and
one?
Yeah, that's going to be Brave and the Bold, yeah. There was also Stephanie Brown.
Okay. Don't know anything about that one.
Yep. She became the superhero Spoiler and then Batgirl, but she started as Robin. Yeah, so there's been like 5 Robins. Like,
she was like the next Karate Kid.
Yeah.
But yeah, so DC projects, we don't know if these are DCU or not, but interesting DC projects, and they're both DC Studios, which is, means directly under the purview of James Gunn and company, so.
Yeah, but James Gunn is like everything DC is pretty much under his purview now, like even the games that Warner Brothers produces. So, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean like this is in universe to DCU or anything, but this is just like.
Could be like Elseworlds, or it could be.
Yeah, it's just a movie that's happening at this point.
I mean, the Bane and Deathstroke thing might be part of the, Matt Reeves universe or something. Who knows?
Right. Yeah. Interesting. I'm looking forward to that for sure.
But that's it for our regular news stories. And now we're going to be talking about trailers that came out this week. And we're starting things off with Companion, which is being labeled as From the Minds Behind Barbarian, which we covered on this podcast. We did an episode about Barbarian. So check that out. It is a really good horror movie. One of the best ones in years, in my opinion. It did some really interesting things, and this looks pretty compelling, but you can't really tell too much what's going on. It's hard to kind of tell.
And it's kind of a swerve. They first, they sell it like as a romance, and then you realize like it's something a lot more sinister.
Yeah.
It's got Jack Quaid as the lead, and I already forgot the name of the co-lead.
A girl who looks like Anna Taylor-Joy.
Yeah. No, she doesn't really
That's her
look
name
that
now.
much like Anna Taylor-Joy, to be honest.
She's got like those big eyes, I think.
Sophie Thatcher, that's her name, which I don't know what she's been in.
I looked it up, and looks like she's been in a lot of like horror films and stuff.
Okay.
I think she was in one of the Triple X franchise movies. I'm not sure which one.
Triple X Vin Diesel?
You know what I'm
You mean
talking
X? Yeah.
X, that's it.
Yeah.
It's Triple X in Maxine, right? It's Maxine with 3 X's.
Maxine is 3 X's, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the X trilogy.
Yeah. She's in one of those. I'm not sure which one. And she's been in a bunch other.
Yeah. So this is interesting. Yeah, this is being billed as a sci-fi horror film. What we know is this woman is trapped seemingly in like some sort of abusive relationship or situation with Jack Quaid's character. It shows her they're at like a dinner table, like a having a romantic dinner, but she's handcuffed to the table and Jack Quaid has a gun on him.
Mm-hmm.
And then all kinds of crazy stuff, like we flash all kinds of crazy stuff happening in the trailer. But we don't know like the actual plot, the actual what's going on is being kept under wraps. They're not saying anything.
Yeah. The last shot, though, is fantastic. With her arm on fire.
Her arm is on fire.
He puts a candle underneath her arm. Her arm's like extended out, and he puts a candle under her arm, and then he sits down and watches as her arm catches on fire. And she's kind of like panicking, but she can't move. But you can kind of see panic in her eyes, and you just see her arms on fire, and he's just watching. It's really crazy shot.
And again, this comes from the team behind Barbarian. So originally, Zach Krager, who directed Barbarian, was going to direct this, but instead they passed directing duties to Drew Hancock, who is the writer of the script, and this is going to be his feature film directing debut.
Mm-hmm.
And Zach Krager is going to be a producer on this. Looks interesting. I think Jack Quaid is fantastic. If you've seen, like, Scream 4, you could see, like, Zach Quaid being sinister, and he does, like, a really good...
Spoilers.
Really. Oh, yeah, spoilers. Yeah, that's right. And people... Not Scream 4, it's Scream 5, right?
Spoilers again!
Yeah. But he does, really, really sinister.
Yeah.
He does really good with that.
Of course, most people probably know him from The Boys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Huey.
Looks interesting. Like I said, Barbarian was one of the best horror movies I've seen in years. So I kind of have high hopes for Companion.
Oh, same.
Next up, we got trailer for Hysteria. This is the TV series coming to Peacock that stars the mom from Modern Family, who is also Jack's wife in Lost, or his ex-wife in Lost. And Bruce Campbell has a role in it as, like, I guess the town sheriff. And it's about, like, it takes place during the Satanic Panic in the 80s. And a metal band in the small town decides to capitalize on all the stuff going on in the town and all the fear in the town and stuff is like a way to, like, kind of promote themselves as a metal band. And then there seems like there might be some actual supernatural stuff going on. It's not just panic in this Satanic Panic.
Right. So it looks fun. Looks very fun.
Looks like a fun show. I mean, I mentioned before we started the podcast, but I mean, you got 1980s setting, check. Heavy metal, check. Satanic Panic, check. Heavy metal, check. Bruce Campbell, check. The mom from Modern Family, check.
This has got everything.
Yeah.
It looks like a lot of fun. Looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yep. Next up, we got trailer for season 2 of The Last of Us.
Yeah.
So
which looks fantastic.
First off, a new actress has joined the cast.
Yep.
Catherine O'Hara.
Yep, Catherine O'Hara.
Kevin!
Yeah, Kevin!
Who you can watch in theaters right now in Beetlejuice.
Yeah. She's making somewhat of a comeback, isn't she?
Hold on, I'm going to summon him. Beetlejuice.
He'll take over the podcast if you do that.
Don't mind if I do. Catherine O'Hara is joining the cast of The Last of Us. I have not played the games for The Last of Us, so I don't know anything that's going on, except I do know the kind of big spoiler that everyone seems to talk about with this. I do also know that they are apparently splitting the contents of the second game amongst 2 seasons. I've heard some people saying they know where the split's going to be. I have no idea where that's going to be, because I haven't played the games. Yeah, I know, like, one big spoiler, I don't know if that's where it's going to be, or if that's supposed to be earlier, or I don't know.
So watching season 1 has inspired you to play the games?
No.
Okay.
I don't feel I need to.
Fair.
But yeah, watching the first season has inspired me to watch the second season. So I'll say that. It looks good. There's some crazy action shots. There's like some emotional scene where Catherine O'Hara's character is talking to Pedro Pascal and asking him like what he did. Yeah, it looks good. You excited for season 2?
Oh, yeah. Very hyped for that. That's going to be good.
Next up, we got our first trailer for Ballerina, which is the John Wick spin-off movie.
Yeah, starring Ana de Armas.
Yeah, who kind of first popped up on the radar with Knives Out, I believe.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought she was first in Blade Runner, the sequel.
Not sure. Maybe. I could see what the order. I don't know what the order of those is, or
I don't know like which came out first, to be honest.
Oh, Blade Runner was first. Blade Runner 2049 was 2017, and Knives Out was 2019.
Okay, yeah.
Knives Out was the first thing I saw her in.
Nice. I've seen Blade Runner 2049. I still haven't seen the first Knives Out, so.
Okay. So we've covered opposite sides of the spectrum there.
Yes.
I've seen The Gray Man, the Netflix movie she did where, like, Chris Evans has a mustache for some reason.
Oh, yeah. Chris Evans with a mustache. Isn't he the bad guy? So, like, mustache equals evil again?
Yeah.
So, mustache, Chris Evans, bad.
It's like a real sleazy mustache. It's like very, like, sleazy, sociopathic kind of mustache. You don't know this, listeners, but Will has currently grown a mustache, so he's become evil.
Yes. I am evil Will.
But on to the trailer for Ballerina.
But the podcast does not change.
It looks good.
It looks good.
The action looks cool. It looks like she went through the boot camp.
In case you were worried that this was not going to be enough of a John Wick spinoff, well, it's fully immersed in John Wick's world to a point where John Wick himself shows up.
We saw 3 of the 4 characters that you see in pretty much all the John Wick movies. We see 3 of them.
Yes.
Including John Wick himself. But you also see the late Lance Reddick has like a brief shot in the trailer.
Yeah. Really cool that they shot this while like he was still alive.
Yeah.
Rip Lance Reddick, man. That sucks, but yeah.
Yeah, he died wasn't it like right before or right after? Like it was like the day of or like right before maybe John Wick 4 came out in theaters.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That kind of stuff, it's crazy when that happens. I remember that happened with, that one actor in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, the one that like helps the people disappear.
That guy, yeah.
Yeah, the actor who plays him died like the day El Camino came out, which he was also in, which was like another Breaking Bad spinoff movie thing.
Yeah, that's crazy,
And that movie came out like the day he died. So yeah, it's crazy when that kind of stuff happens, but sad. But yeah, it's exciting that he's still going to be a part of the franchise, like now years after his death. And then the last trailer we got was for Nosferatu. We'd had a teaser before that was fantastic. And now we got a trailer that also kind of feels like a teaser because they're being intentionally vague with a lot of stuff. And that's a good thing. You're not seeing the count, you know?
No, they're not showing him, which is good because that's a lot more effective.
Yeah.
To build, suspense and horror, like.
You're getting a lot more of the idea of what's going on in the plot in this trailer. Like there's a girl who's kind of being haunted by him and you could tell that she's got like a weird like fascination for it. She's like scared but excited at the same time. And everybody else is kind of freaked out. And there's just some really kind of unsettling shots, like seeing his silhouette on like a curtain that's blowing in the wind. And when the curtain blows away, he's not there. Like that kind of cool stuff.
Oh yeah, and for those who don't know, like Nosferatu was originally, I believe, a German film made.
Silent film, 1922.
Yeah, and it was an adaptation of Dracula, like the novel. It's just Dracula. It was a German adaptation of Bram Stoker's novel. That's kind of like unique in and of itself because like the way they designed Dracula, like they changed his name and everything, so they didn't keep it. And like the design of the character is like so unique compared to like every other adaptation of Bram Stoker's novel.
Mm-hmm.
It took on like its own life.
There's a role-playing game, like a tabletop role-playing game called Vampire the Masquerade.
Yeah. I'm familiar.
And there's all these different like clans of vampires. And they all have like different strengths and weaknesses. And every clan has like a fatal curse or like a major curse. And one of the clans is called Nosferatu and their curse is like a disfigurement.
Right. Oh yeah. which is really cool.
Yeah.
What We Do in the Shadows, the film, one of the housemates was a Nosferatu vampire.
Yeah.
It's really cool. So this is basically a remake of that. So this is basically Dracula again, but it's Dracula by Robert Eger with freaking Willem Dafoe, and it looks incredible.
Yeah. Also funny is that Willem Dafoe seems to be playing kind of a Van Helsing type character, seems to be in this. But Willem Dafoe was in a movie called, I think, Shadow of the Vampire.
Yes.
Where it was about the making of the movie Nosferatu. And he played both the actor playing Nosferatu and also like Nosferatu himself, who was like, it was like a weird movie where it blurred the lines between the movie and it really happening. or something.
Yeah. So Shadow of the Vampire was like, it was about the making of Nosferatu. The actor who played Count Orlok Nosferatu in the original film, his name was Max Schreck. So Shadow of the Vampire like reimagines it as like Max Schreck was actually Count Orlok Nosferatu. Like he was a real vampire.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was like the idea. Like F.W. Murnau went out and like found like a real vampire and used him as a subject for his film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like an interesting little twist on that.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's funny that like Willem Dafoe was involved in that, and he's involved in this.
He's an Eggers regular now. He was in The Lighthouse, and he was also in The Norseman. And now he's in Nosferatu. So he's become a regular. Ralph Ineson's in this movie. He's also a Eggers regular, and he's going to be playing Galactus in the Fantastic Four.
Yes.
Originally, Anya Taylor-Joy was supposed to be in this movie, but she had to drop out for scheduling, and she was replaced by Lily Rose Depp, who's Johnny Depp's daughter.
Yes.
And you mentioned Bill Skarsgård already, which there's been a lot of talk about him being like truly frightening in this movie.
Oh yeah, Bill Skarsgård, man, he is crazy.
Yeah, he's played some terrifying characters before.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Pennywise the Clown and It, and yeah.
Yeah,
and he also made a really bad Crow movie, apparently.
Yeah, he did. Which I think, like, the director of the original, like, The Crow, like, recently slammed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he was also in a movie called Boy Kills World that was really good that you can see on Hulu. So I invite everybody to check that out if you want to wash The Crow out of your memory.
Anyway, this looks incredible. I am definitely, like, all for seeing this movie, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and that is it for our On Beat section. And now we're going to move on to On Tap.
What we've been watching. What we've been playing. What's on tap.
This week on Tap, I'm going to be talking a little bit about my experiences with The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. This isn't going to be a full spoilers discussion. I'm just going to kind of touch on it briefly, and I'll probably touch on it again as I play through more of the game. But I want to touch on some of the strengths and weaknesses of the game for anybody who hasn't yet played it. So first off, this game is using the same art style as the Link's Awakening remake that came out on Switch a couple years ago. So it's got that same kind of like toy diorama kind of aesthetic that Link's Awakening had. This game is significantly larger, like much, much, much larger. And if you've seen the trailers for it, you know that they're kind of going for like it's got that like old school 2D Zelda thing, but it's also kind of borrowing from like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom and the kind of like physics-based Zelda type games. And it does that just masterfully. It works so well. The echoes are really cool. The way you use them is really cool. The combinations that you can do, like you don't create things, you don't craft or anything like you would in, say, Tears of the Kingdom, but you can like stack something. So you can get like that one enemy that's like a spike thing that spins. It's in like the desert areas, you know?
Right.
And you can place like a man-eating plant on top of it. And then that spike thing will go around and hit things, and then the man-eating thing will eat them, you know? So you can, like, do these weird little combinations and stuff like that, and you can, you know, stack things up however it best suits you. There's, like, a limit to the number of echoes that you can... That's what it's called when you replicate enemies or items you find in the world. And echoes have different, like, valuations. Like, they have, like, a little marks next to them. So you might see... If you see one mark, then that means it takes up, like, 1 point at a time to use it. So you start the game with 3 points. And so, like, let's say you have a Keese, which is like the bats in Zelda games. A Keese is only 1 point. So you could, like, launch 3 bats out. And then if one of them dies, you can just immediately summon another one. Even if one doesn't die, you could just summon another one, and the first one you summoned will disappear, and the next one will take over. So you can be kind of real loose with it. You don't have to worry about what echoes you have around. You can just kind of just keep spamming them. And if you have more than you can use, then the old ones will just disappear. So you can just, you don't have to wait for your echo to make it across the room if you're faster. You can just go to the other side of the room and then spawn a new version of that same echo. Like just
which is really, really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. It makes it much more convenient to do something like that. Some echoes cost more. So some echoes cost 2, some cost 3. I have one echo that costs 5 and I can't even use it because I can only use 4 at the moment. So as you clear like certain dungeons, you expand the number of echo points you have. Like I said, I've done only one dungeon and so I have 4 points right now. You had 3 and now I have 4. So I have quite a few echoes that cost 3 points, quite a few that cost 4 points. And like I said, I have one that costs 5 points and I can't even use it because I need to beat another dungeon before I can use that, echo. But yeah, it's really cool. There's lots of cool, like, puzzle solving mechanics and stuff. It's got really good music, which is kind of cool because the last 2 Zelda games, or last 2 major new Zelda games, being Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, had very sparse music throughout them. And this kind of goes back to like, the old days of just triumphant scores in the background as you're adventuring around Hyrule.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah, so that's pretty fun. It's fun to have kind of all that stuff back. There is one major hang up to this game, a serious annoyance, and that is it uses a very similar inventory system to what Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom does. And since there's like over 100 echoes in the game, that means that you have to bring up a single row and scroll through 100 echoes to select the echoes you want.
Oh, man.
There are some sorting mechanisms. So you can sort by like your most used, your most recent. You can sort by type. I had to do that one time. I was underwater and there was an enemy there and I was trying to find an enemy that could beat it. And I'm like, where's my fish? Like, can I just have them all in one place? And I was able to sort it by type. And then by doing that, all my kind of aquatic creatures were all in one spot. So I was able to like look for that echo. But it is kind of annoying. I wonder if it's annoying enough that people are talking about it. A lot of people are talking about it. And I wonder if maybe they'll come up with some patch to kind of make some kind of fix that makes it a little better. Like, I don't understand why they don't just use like multiple rows. Like, does everything have to be on a single row? Like, maybe they could do multiple rows, or maybe they could give you more sorting options. Maybe you could make a favorites, I mean, you kind of already have that with your most used, but it'd be nice if you could like just literally set specific ones that would only come up, that you use all the time. That's the annoying part of the game. But, if you're just kind of using the few echoes that you use all the time, then you won't really even notice because they'll always kind of be at the top of your most used category. But if you're like specifically in a situation, you're like, oh, what's an echo I can use for that? Oh, I think I got an echo like 3 hours ago, like up on the snowy mountain or something, and that might be useful here. And it's like, then you're good luck. You're going to be hunting for it because you got like 100 of those things and you're going to be scrolling through trying to find what's the one that covers that. So that's a little annoying. But besides that, it is a great game. It is amazing that they did this, that they made this like really deep and just massive 2D Zelda. This is probably the biggest world map I've ever seen in a 2D Zelda. So that's really cool. And it's the first game where you play as Zelda instead of Link. And I think I mentioned to you that I heard somebody else say, and I think it's a really good way of putting it, that Link is a character in the Zelda games that's a good fighter and he's okay at magic. And in this game, you don't actually fight for the most part, except you do have an option you can fight, but it's limited. And it's kind of like the reverse of Link, where Zelda is like a fantastic magician and just like an okay fighter.
Right, yeah.
So when you enact her, like the sword fighting stuff, it's not as good as if you're using Link, and you have a limited time at which you can use that character in that way, and then you run out of energy, and it's kind of like running out of energy with your Master Sword in like Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. You run out, you lose it, you gotta regain that energy before you can use it again. And you don't regain it over time, you regain it by collecting little like power-ups or whatever that show up when you kill enemies from the Dark Dimension or whatever it's called in this game. The Silent World, I think it's called, right. Something like that. But yeah, so that's kind of Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. You haven't played this game yet. Do you have any questions about it?
I don't have the game. No, I'm trying to like trying to just keep, just like, I'm just gonna find out when I play.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Just
like,
be ready. Just be ready to deal with the echoes. That's a little frustrating. But besides that, it's fantastic. So
Nice.
I look forward to when you check it out. I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Okay. Well, we'll hear my thoughts about it soon.
Soon. That's the teaser. And that's it for our On Tap segment. And now we're going to move on to our final segment, full spoilers. So for this week on Full Spoilers, like last week, we are talking about Agatha All Along and the Penguin. This week we're talking about episode 3 of Agatha All Along, Through Many Miles of Tricks and Trials. And we're talking about episode 2 of the Penguin, Inside Man. Let's start with Agatha All Along. We were both pleasantly surprised by the first 2 episodes of Agatha All Along. We were both kind of a little, I think you more than me, a little bit hesitant, a little bit, thinking this doesn't look like it's going to be that great. I had a little bit more faith in it, but I was also a little let down by the trailers and kind of like, nothing's really exciting me for this yet. And then we watched it and we talked about last week that it was like, it just feels like seasonally appropriate. It just has that perfect like spooky season feeling and stuff. This episode, we kind of go into a different environment. They're kind of like, they found their way of repeating the gimmick of WandaVision, where WandaVision had all those different eras of sitcom. We kind of have something similar here because the Witch's Road being this kind of metaphysical kind of place, that they end up there and it kind of takes on these different visions to them, these different feels. So what did you think of episode 3?
I thought it was great. I thought it was like a really fun episode, and to see like the first trial, like the first trial being they had to ingest this magical poison, and then they had to use the skills, more specifically the potion maker's skills, to come up with a potion to cure it. Mm-hmm. With the items available to them in the house. I thought that was kind of clever. And also with the whole thing, like the hallucinations, we got some backstory for several of the characters. And then it unexpectedly ended on a pretty grim note. We lost somebody.
We lost Kitty.
Yeah, we lost Kitty, unfortunately.
Red is going to be so upset.
Yeah.
He's going to find Agatha and he's going to break his foot off in her ass. We lost Sharon Davis. It was really funny. The last line of the episode is, "Who's Sharon?"
Right, yeah. That was pretty funny.
Agatha just only knows her as Miss Hart. Just has no interest in learning.
Yeah, just had like no interest in her whatsoever. But yeah, we got like a lot of backstory. We got, the backstory about like Agatha supposedly giving up her child for the dark hold. Mm-hmm. We saw that again referenced in her hallucination.
Yeah, we had a character say it kind of offhand, and then we saw it in a hallucination. We saw like the dark hold in like a baby crib or something.
Yeah. Well, like first it's like a baby. It's like her baby, right? And then when she goes to pick it up, it's the dark hold.
Mm-hmm. We also got a puritanical flashback for the character of Lilia Caldero, the Patti LuPone's character, where you see like she has this kind of like puritanical background and somebody like kind of persecuting her there.
Yeah.
She was kind of stuck in another language for a little bit there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we had the protector witch, Alice, who saw her mom, who disappeared on the Witch's Road.
And the thing is, with Alice, her mom told her like all the women in her line were cursed. And so her thing is she's going back to a memory of her mother learning that their grandmother had died. And she freaks out. She says, "I'm next, and there's no way I can protect you."
Yeah.
I think the implication was like she just flat out commits suicide.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens with that. We know her mom apparently disappeared on the Witch's Road. That's the only thing we know about her fate.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, it was cool seeing all those different elements. It was interesting having Agatha take kind of a back seat in the episode.
Yeah.
All these other characters. We also got a few little bits of intrigue. We got a big name drop.
Well, we did, yeah.
Pretty big name drop. I mean, they dropped the name Mephisto.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Because the one witch there who was talking to Teen.
Mm-hmm. I think it was the poison witch.
Yeah, the potion witch. Yeah, she was talking to Teen about Agatha and her backstory. And basically the name drop came where, she gave up her firstborn son for the Darkhold.
You don't know. He could be alive. He could be dead. He could be an agent of Mephisto.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And they were like strongly suggesting Teen is this long-lost son of Agatha's.
Yeah, which is interesting because we had this past thing where when he was first cast in the show, everything was saying that he's Wiccan from WandaVision, one of Wanda's children.
Yes.
And
I think
now they're kind of throwing some doubt on that. I think it might be a red herring, but they're throwing doubt.
I think this is misdirection. I don't think that this stuff was written like long before like any leaks happened. So I don't think like they're reacting to like leaks that came out.
No.
Like, it kind of sucks that we like know because of what they're doing here, because it kind of makes it fall flat. Like the intrigue is gone already, and it's not the fault of the show.
There were a lot of leaks about WandaVision that ended up not being true.
Yeah,
so I mean, we don't know for sure.
We got Funko Pops that confirm it though, so it's kind of like
Even still, it could be there could be a fake out in there somewhere.
So we know like this isn't Agatha's son, this is Wanda's son, which is going to be the big reveal.
No, come on. We know who it is. It's Ralph Boner.
Yeah, it's Ralph. Yeah, exactly. He takes off a mask. It's just Ralph Bonner again.
Yeah. King of the MCU, I'm telling you.
Remember when people were saying Ralph Bonner was Mephisto?
Yeah.
Good times.
We need a spin-off series that's just the adventures of Ralph Boner and Madison.
Oh, yeah, exactly. We need that. The MCU needs that.
Yes. We need nothing more than that. I mean, we don't need the Fantastic Four.
Right.
Who needs the Fantastic Four?
Who needs that?
Who needs X-Men in this universe? We don't need any
X-Men?
of that shit.
We just need Ralph Bonner and Madison.
Yeah, exactly.
Marvel team-up. Ralph
Boner.
and Madison. So there's that bit of intrigue in this episode. This is a solid show. This is way more solid than I was expecting, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm quite a bit enjoying it. I said this last week and I still stand by it. I enjoy this more than I'm enjoying The Penguin. I still think The Penguin's probably better. Like, from a more objective standpoint, I think The Penguin's better. But Agatha All Along is just so fun.
Yeah,
it's such a fun show.
I can't make that determination because they're different shows. They're different flavors of shows. That's kind of like, it'd be kind of like saying like, what, like Community is better than The Sopranos. I guess, but they're like way different.
From a more objective standpoint, I think most people would say Sopranos is better than Community. Right. Even people who love Community, you know?
But I just wouldn't make the comparison to begin with because they're so different. I just like, I'm enjoying both a lot. I will say that. I'm enjoying both.
When I watch The Penguin, I feel like I'm watching Prestige TV.
Yes.
And when I'm watching Agatha All Along, I feel like I'm watching a really fun show that I enjoy quite a bit.
Yeah, this is a Prestige TV. This is just like fun.
Yeah, like, you know, the kind of vibes I get with Agatha All Along is the kind of vibes I got with like The Magicians.
Right.
Like, and I love that show. I'm not being dismissive at all. I loved The Magicians. And I'm loving Agatha All Along. And like I already said, I'm enjoying it more than I'm enjoying The Penguin. But that takes us to The Penguin. So let's move on to The Penguin. Episode 2, Inside Man. So we kind of got the setup of a relationship between Oz and this kid, Victor. And it kind of takes on this like big brother, father type figure role in his life. Kind of, it's a way that it intersects. And it's just looking more and more as I'm watching this that I don't think Victor is long for this world.
I don't think so either. He's in over his head.
Yeah, I think they're setting us up for a painful moment. But yeah, it's effective though, because I like the character a lot. I like that relationship a lot. And, like the last episode where it ended with them drinking the suicide slushies and stuff, like it just was like a very personable, like good moment. And you're kind of carrying over here, but you have these kind of dark moments, like at the end of the episode when...
And Penguin's like a father figure, but he's an abusive father figure.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, is like in the first episode you watch it and you're like, oh, he's becoming this father figure. And then in this episode, you're like, well, he has become like a father figure, but he's kind of like scary as a father figure. He's not like a father figure that's going to do everything to save this kid's life. He's like a father figure that's going to like go, well, I made you so I can use you as my own chess piece and just kill you off whenever I want and I don't care.
Right.
And it's setting up for something painful, it feels like to me. I don't know if they're going to go in that direction or not, but it feels like that right now. We got a little bit more going on with the Falcone family this time. We are introduced to the character of Luca Falcone, which I don't think was in the first episode.
He wasn't in the first episode, no. He is the current boss of the Falcone crime family. following the murder from the first episode.
Yeah, he is the brother of Carmine Falcone, who was in the Batman movie, and the uncle to Sophia and Alberto.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And so you have that power play going on right now in this episode between, like, Sophia and Luca, with, like, Johnny Vitti kind of floating in there as well as this, like, underboss who's, like, not a member of the family by blood, but, like, a really high up and trusted figure.
He was very close to Carmine, and so he has, like, this very trusted, like, number 2 position in the family. Penguin, as we saw, like, in the first episode, he has some dirt on Vitti. One of his goals is to undermine the family's trust in Vitti. Mm-hmm. Right.
And it's what you see here is you see Penguin's strengths in this episode in that he keeps coming up with these plans, these pretty good plans, and they keep failing. They keep going wrong. And then he has to, like, on his feet adapt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that's his strength is adapting.
Yeah, that's his strength. He's good at improvising.
Mm-hmm.
He's not good at setting up plans and executing them. Because they all go to shit. But
they're
he's good at getting himself out of it.
He has good ideas for his plans, but they just don't, like, they quickly fall apart. And then he has to, like, improvise. And that's where, like, his real strength comes in.
Yeah, exactly.
We also, in the first episode, we got introduced to Salvatore Moroni, played by Clancy Brown.
Yeah.
And in this episode, we meet his family. So we meet Nadia Moroni, who is played by, I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name, but the woman with the best voice ever.
Oh, yeah. She was in the Expanse and then like a bunch of other things. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I first noticed her. She was, like, I think in season 3 of 24.
Yeah, that's right. That was the first thing I
She was the mother of that, like, sleeper cell terrorist family.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that.
She's just got that, like,
that's going back now.
Unmistakable voice, you know?
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that was the first thing I saw her in too, was 24.
Yeah, so it's like she popped up in this episode and I was like, oh,
yeah,
like,
yeah, right?
You know, like that animated gif of, like, Leonardo DiCaprio, like, pointing at the screen when he sees something, you know, that they always use.
Oh, absolutely. 100%.
It's like that was me. I'm, like, pointing at the screen. Ooh. But yeah, fantastic and interesting, the dynamics there, because Penguin kind of has to manage these two sides of these two different families, you know? And he's going after the Falcones. He's trying to use the Moronis against the Falcones, but he's, like, been, like, backing out on his plans and in doing so hurting the Moroni family because his plans are falling apart, you know? He was originally going to be in the follow car for this heist and they were going to hit the thing, and then he ended up having to be in the car, and that fell apart, and he ended up having to be in the main car, and he managed to survive it and set everything up. But unfortunately, the driver of the car survived and saw, you know, what Penguin did, and then shot the guy from the other family, and then Penguin had to switch his plans again. So he had to switch his plans, like, twice.
Yeah.
In one moment.
Yeah, in one moment, yeah.
As everything was just falling apart. But yeah, it was a really cool sequence, and you just kind of see, you know, the Penguin taking on that mantle of this person who kind of straddles this line, because he's really playing a dangerous game with the Moronis, because they know they can tip off the Falcones to exactly what he did, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So he has to, like, stay in their good graces somehow.
And then he comes up with this other plan where, you know, like, he's going to set up Vitti, you know, like, to take the fall. And that involves, like, you know, smuggling diamonds, like, into his car, and then having an informant, you know, that the Moroni informant that the Falcones had, I believe Sophia Falcone had set up, chained in the basement to point out the traitor, and Penguin got to him first, and the idea was, like, he was going to red out Vitti as the traitor, and the diamonds in the car was supposed to, like, prove
Back up the story,
but that goes to shit.
Yeah.
Because Victor. Yeah,
Yeah.
because Victor does not succeed in getting the diamonds into the car. He gets spotted as he's going for it.
He did not get the spoils.
Yeah, he did not get the spoils, you know, which enrages Penguin. And again, Penguin has to switch up his plan on the spot. So he just flat out kills the informant, and he stabs him with a knife, and then he plants his knife on Sophia's bodyguard.
Castillo,
yeah, I believe is like Sophia's bodyguard.
Well, it's like
he's a lieutenant
direct,
of Sophia.
Yeah, it's like her direct right-hand man.
Yeah.
Or enforcer or whatever.
Yeah,
you know?
and the way they do that scene is interesting because they make it look like he's planning it like on VD because that was like the plan to have VD take the fall because he gets real belligerent with him and up in his face and you think, oh yeah, he's playing the knife on him, but it turns out he planted it on Castillo when Castillo was pulling him off of VD.
Yeah. Well, it's like he knows he can't do it to VD because they, just like he needed the jewels planted, he needed something more than just like an accusation, and the knife wasn't going to be enough.
Right. Yeah.
He's too high up. Like he needs something more concrete, and it wasn't going to work, so he couldn't do it to VD. He had to do it to Castillo to kind of give him a break from that. We're also introduced to another character in this episode that we hadn't met before, played by Theo Rossi, who was in Luke Cage, if you remember.
I remember, yeah.
He was also in Sons of Anarchy. He's playing the character of Dr. Julian Rush, who is like Sophia's psychiatrist, I guess.
Yeah, seems to be.
Who apparently helped her get out of Arkham and is like kind of seeing her now. And you see he's got this kind of controller. He's got this kind of light array that he's using to kind of bring up like, memories or something for her or have her work through emotions and feelings. And she's kind of crazy and feeling like she's still in Arkham or something. And he's like comforting her. Apparently this is a character from the comics. I think he was actually in the first Batman comic, like the very, very first one from like the 40s.
I wouldn't know, to be honest. Because I'm not sure.
Yeah, but I looked him up just briefly because I'm like, okay, who is this guy? And I saw his nameplate on the desk. I typed in Dr. Julian Rush, and yeah, he's a character in the Batman comics, and I think he was in the first Batman comic, where he plays he's a psychologist and he manipulates people. So that'll be interesting to see if they use that, if they go in that direction and use it as a villain character that's kind of manipulating people, or if they're just going to do something else with him and they're just borrowing the name. Because he's not he's not like the Riddler. He's not the Joker. He's not like a known Rogues Gallery member for Batman.
Oh, yeah.
But I thought that was kind of interesting. I thought that whole kind of sequence was interesting because it's like, oh, what's going on with this guy? There's something going on with this guy. But anything else to say about this episode?
That's interesting. I mean, this is another excellent episode. I'm loving the intrigue, like all the political drama. I'm loving like the fact that like Oz is like such a sleazeball and he manages to like just weasel his way out of like every disastrous situation he gets himself in.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool.
Yeah. So we'll talk about this as well as Agatha All Along next week as well when we talk about the next episodes in both of those series. So stay tuned for that. But that is the end of our podcast. So thank you everybody for listening. You can follow me on Twitter. I am at Tyson Gifford. You can follow Will. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to our website and scroll down to any of our podcast container stories and go to the last paragraph of any of those stories, you'll find all of our relevant social links, our links to our SoundCloud page, our RSS feed. It's all there, so you can do that there. You can also subscribe to this podcast through your favorite podcast client of choice, like Apple Podcasts or Pocket Cast, and the entire backlog of this podcast, as well as our last podcast, The Weekly Set, other content that we've done, other videos, top 10 list, Hannibal impressions, and all sorts of stuff are all on our YouTube channel as well. So you can check that out there. Thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen Podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.